really happy. Cool people here on the third day, so I appreciate you doing that. My first time. A little bit about Arima. Arima launched in 2019, does two things. The first one, we work with what's called synthetic populations, and it's called synthetic society. Work with brands and their agency partners to do various types of scenario planning, agent-based modeling, as well as their AI efforts, which are obviously dimensionalizing as we speak. On the second side is what we're going to talk about today, which is marketing mix modeling, which is the bigger word versus, say, media mix modeling, which it obviously is a part of. Oh, a lot of conversation. I thought the roundtables were great. Yesterday, we were talking with Fitz and the group specifically about a lot of the challenges about understanding how marketing specifically with challenger brands. And one of the areas where we're getting a lot of focus on is on the marketing side. So the idea here is that counting down to 2 or 10? Oh, okay.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, so far, that's right. I can do it. I've done it. I work on the agency. I do a 2-minute pitch. I can do it in 2 minutes. Okay, that's all right. All good. So anyway, the world's exploding. But from an MMM standpoint, there's when we launched our solutions in 2019, we tried to understand. I come from an analytics background, as was mentioned, but always had challenge of how we can necessarily bring a lot of these types of solutions to, like I'd say, local, regional, and emerging brands, challenger brands, because there is some challenges of what MMM, at least up to this point, it's been around since the late 40s, early 50s, and there are 3 things. Again, we were looking at this initially when we started, the numbers were above 40, so certainly making progress on who is using MMM, and just to give you the definition of MMM, it is really about being able to measure on an omni-channel basis the contribution of your marketing activities, be them with media or, again, also the other things that you do so well, promotions, local, and how they all contribute to your business objectives. And that, in a nutshell, is what MMM is trying to do, sitting alongside all the other types of really good research analysis that you may be doing on a campaign level, on a channel and partner level, as a complement to that. So how do we get to that other 34% is really what we try to explore and try to flip this. So the biggest takeaways from that initial analysis was speed, accessibility, and cost. And coming from the agency side, speed was a tough one. We do MMM, it would take like 90 days at least to get analysis back. And by then, we're all on to the next problem, next challenge. And so that was a big one. So being able to turn that into, well, data still takes time to collect and aggregate. So if you can get that done in days or weeks even, it's okay. But being able to get speed down to results within an hour. Accessibility, we have data scientists working with us on our platform, that's great. But if anyone here is comfortable using Excel, you can do MMM too. It doesn't necessarily need data scientists. They're great. Brian from Inspire yesterday talked about, he built it in-house. That is a path that I certainly think is good, but that certainly has a lot of investments and a lot of dimensions to it. And then finally, cost. Coming from the agency side and working with brands directly, I've seen this with multiples of hundreds of thousands of dollars to run this. Imagine taking that's again orders of magnitude more expensive than it should be. Being able to provide it at a reasonable cost, one that I would argue anyone in this room could afford. So we started doing that. We've been working with some really great partners, both directly with brands and their agency partners. And we did notice one thing as we were getting started, that we needed to focus on one other aspect. It's great to get that data, sometimes immediately, sometimes the outcomes takes a little while, but focusing on workflow, making sure that it's integrated within your tech stack or whatever types of solutions you may be working within your own organization or with your partners. So it's really about where that MMM outcome goes. So you could use our tools. Again, we have a whole marketing support suite. It's great, but it's really more about doing a data audit and a stack audit just to make sure that we can get the flows in. And that's actually quite a straightforward process. But once we get that flywheel going, it becomes much more of a workflow. And the great part of a workflow is that questions get answered. And when you're starting to do this over and over again, rinse and repeat, the questions get better. And hopefully some of the answers can get better too. So we work through that process. Incrementality was mentioned yesterday, which is really cool. So we talk about different types of measurement, being able to integrate that, just being able to do that. And coming from maybe the agency DNA that I've had doing the QBRs with important brands is being able to do that in reverse, saying, okay, what else do you need that to do? So I created a little, again, chat GPT action, took some of those notes and aggregated that just to all the things that people wanted to do between building benchmarks, being able to do better forecasting, all kinds of other analysis that they like to do with marketing mix modeling. But the biggest one on that left over there, local. So make it appropriate, make it useful that I can do MMM on a local level. And that has, again, that has some interesting challenges, but that was what the focus was. So we've been doing that the past couple of years, focusing specifically on local. Right now we work with Subway in Canada, through an agency we're working with Checkers. There's a number of different brands that have embraced this idea of not just doing national, but regionalizing this. So I wanted to show you an example, and to the respect of the brand, they're in review doing things, so I didn't necessarily want to share that detail, but working with this brand directly and through their agency, they are using MMM, but on a national level, and that's okay, a great place to start, but what they're seeing is this huge dissonance between what they see and what they need to do locally, the challenges, the competitive, just all the different regional aspects of, even as I think was mentioned about putting a tea brand, a tea product in the Atlanta region for fizz, things of that nature. Not necessarily needed perhaps in other regions, not just from product, but also performance. So being able to figure out a way to appropriately manage both up-down when it comes to MMM. So here we have a solution where we said, you know what, we'll do a full national one, and we'll do 13 DMAs at the same time. So I could show a million of these slides, so just to focus on some of the details, and I got to sit next to the ODN folks last night at dinner, which was awesome, and we talked this, they couldn't stay today, so I said, you know, out of home, not necessarily getting their fair shake when it comes to looking at this, but out of home, we'll focus on that, and then Meta and TikTok. Notice when you're looking at national, TikTok doing well versus Meta, and out of home, also not so much. Now doing that on a 13 market breakdown between the national, you'll see that Meta actually does quite well in 11 markets, beating out TikTok. Out of home has that same type of dynamic where if you think about what markets that say this brand is in, there's New York, LA, Chicago, and so forth, but where they had locations that were in the center of town, center of city, so lunch important, takeaway important from a commuting perspective. Some of the other markets, a little bit more evenly spread where those are. So they were talking about suburbs, et cetera. So out of home's role, a little bit of a different dynamic. You wouldn't have seen that from the national analysis. Local, you get to see that type of detail. That's possible today, fast, accessible, as well as affordable. Now, it wouldn't be an analytics presentation without like a nerd here to show you one eye chart, so I appreciate that. Now, just to kind of walk you through, we're going to look at the top one on the left. Now, this is, if you look at what we're looking at, diminishing returns curves. So there's a purple line, that's TikTok. You notice that on a national level, what you're seeing between those lines, if you go from left to right on the x-axis, that represents the media spend. And as you move to the right, you're seeing the revenue that contributes from that channel going up. At least that's a very high curve. So if you're just looking at the national, wow, TikTok's doing great, Google's doing great, we're done. But peel the onion and look specifically at different markets, and then we see the examples of 1 and number 2. Number 1, we're seeing that Google is still doing its thing, but perhaps flattening out. Maybe there's an opportunity to expand the spectrum when it comes to different types of digital options. But more importantly, look at Meta. That Meta actually even would scream, say, you know what, spend a little bit more on Meta and maybe pull back on TikTok. Not saying TikTok is bad, but making sure you're able to utilize both channels effectively, market to market, region to region. And then out of home. Out of home just screams to spend more money on out of home. Doesn't mean every market means to be that, but in market number 2 here, which could be New York, LA, Chicago, DC, and so forth, is that it is suggesting that it also is a major contributor to overall revenue. So 2 last slides here. This is what changed the dynamics from a workflow perspective. The national approach kind of led was the template to start, but once they started doing the localized MMM, then all of a sudden they started doing various types of grids and scoring, and we helped them with that. But to be able to look at channel breakdowns and contribution on individual partner basis, and then be able to do that across all their markets, not just the 13 that they test. So in summation, MMM is having its day for a while, but local really is, I think, the next chapter here. So there's a lot of opportunity to do that. And national's not bad, but what is really important is that if you look to local and regional, there's a lot of opportunity to better understand how contribution is on an omni-channel basis. And then being able to quickly put that into your workflow. And there you have it. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.